So, are certain political organizations inherently immoral, or is it just the people in them and how they usually use such structures that make them immoral? I should probably get a little more specific. I've been thinking a lot lately about the idea of the evil empire, which is, one I really like and have always found really attractive. I keep coming back to it. To me, the gold standard of evil empires is, of course, the Empire from Star Wars. Great, big, brooding, monstrous warships, hordes of anonymous stormtroopers subjugating the galaxy. But the funny thing about it is, throughout the movies, as several people have pointed out, it's not just me, you never actually see the Empire do anything all that evil, other than ruthlessly pursue the rebels, torturing them for information. Gosh, I wonder who else does that. Anyway, they're not actually that evil. They probably are. Off screen, I'm sure they do all sorts of terrible things. You just don't see it. So it got me thinking about what all those resources could be put to use for. I mean, the thing about evil empires is they're formed, and then the only thing they ever get used for is to perpetuate their own power cycle. But theoretically, with the unlimited resources of an evil empire, you could do anything who's going to stand in your way. I always wonder what would have happened if, instead of saying, no, Luke Skywalker had actually gone over to the dark side and become, the heir apparent to this vast and omnipotent power source. So that gave me my new idea for today, which is a book, I think, or a story, whatever. Anyway, so there's a big evil empire. It's set at the climactic battle between the scrappy rebels and the Empire, and the rebels lose. They get their ass kicked. Probably not in a straight-up battle, but through some unforeseen betrayal, they are defeated, and the leaders are captured, and so the heroes are brought before the baddies. And, you've got your young, scrappy warrior general and your slightly immoral but ultimately good-hearted rogue, and your beautiful and incredibly passionate and convincing princess character. This could be fantasy or science fiction. In my head it's science fiction, but obviously it would work as fantasy as well. Anyway, and so out comes, the evil overlord, and he says, well, I suppose I could publicly execute you now, and all of your men, and torture you and make a big spectacle out of it so that no one would ever think to do this again. Or I think I could just hire you. And they go, what? And he goes, well, you understand where you've done an incredibly good job of standing up to a much larger and more focused military and political force. So obviously you have some skill sets, and you know where all the chinks in my armor are, and I'm interested in sealing those up. So who better to, run my counter-rebellion service than you guys? And if you don't, I'll torture everyone, and your families will all be executed. So, it's your choice. So, instead of pulling a Braveheart and going down with the ship, they actually agree to work for the evil empire. And that would be the idea of the series. You have these three, incredibly moral, ethical, talented people who, in any other story, would be fighting for the good guys, and instead they're working within the system, trying to be as, careful and conservative as possible in a hierarchy that demands these huge, brutal shows of force anytime anything goes wrong. And so it would just be the question, really, behind the scenes would be, can these three people actually transform this evil, monstrous thing into a force for good, or at least a neutral force? I don't know. That's, like I said, that brings me back to my initial question. If Walmart had a more empathic, sympathetic board, would they not be total assholes? don't know. Maybe something worse would just come along in their place. But I think it would make for an interesting story at the very least. So that's my idea for the day.